It's the year 2000. January 1, despite all the hoopla, the world did not come to a crashing halt on midnight of December 31st, 1999, or better known as the Y2K crisis. Michigan's population is 9,938,444. At FBC, changes would be slowly made by transforming the governing structure of the church. New bylaws would change the role of the church deacons, church council, and the formation of an elder committee. Spring has always led the way for the traditional Easter service. This special service was punctuated with the participation of those in the adult and children's choirs. As with many churches on this Holy of Holies, the pews were packed. Another tradition that was celebrated was the annual Mother-Daughter Banquet, a time for the elders to reminisce with daughters, grandchildren, or younger members of the congregation, breaking bread together. The new festival, HarborFest, kicked off the summer season. FBC's children's singers helped get people involved in attending, singing a few songs on the bandstand down by the new marina. Meanwhile, it seemed like there was always some type of expansion going on. This is the year that a new garage building was erected on the southeast corner of the parking lot. Moving into October, the annual Hallelujah Party, which later became Pumpkin Fest, had become a great way to dress up and have some Halloween fun that didn't involve going outdoors. In November, Pastor Williams would tender his resignation. This activated the search committee to seek out a new pastor. Faithfully, the congregation marched forward. In December, the children's group had a Christmas program along with other opportunities for Yuletide participation. January 20, 2001, George W. Bush is inaugurated as the 43rd United States President. An interim youth pastor would start working with FBC teens, Mylan Bittenbender, husband of our music and children's ministry leader, Jennifer Bittenbender. Without a pastor, church members relied on each other for hospital and home visits. Sunday messages were covered by representatives of the American Baptist Churches of Michigan, as well as from 2 interim pastors. The search committee worked hard to answer various questions, review resumes from interested parties, and set up interviews. During the summer, it was always a joy to get a bunch of church members together to go camping at the Van Buren State Park, just down the road a few miles. They sang and ate and swam and fellowshiped around the campfire together. FBC also went on several mission trips, spearheaded by Gary Haga. This year, a few FBC members went to Russia. On September 11th, a coordinated militant Islamic terrorist group, Al-Qaeda, hijacked 4 planes and flew 3 of them into the World Trade Center in New York and the west side of the Pentagon building. A 4th plane, with plans to crash into a building in Washington, D.C., was overtaken by passengers. It crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. 2,977 people died, and over 25,000 were injured during this world event. In October, U.S. forces invaded Afghanistan and toppled the Taliban regime, which harbored the Al-Qaeda groups. At a November all-church members meeting, it was voted to accept Pastor Jerry Kohler as the new pastor of the First Baptist Church. He would start in December. In December, FBC puts on another of its wonderful music plays for the community entitled I'll Be Home for Christmas, a holiday musical that took place in 1941.
2002 in Michigan, Jennifer Granholm becomes the first woman elected as governor to the state. The FBC Building Committee and Church Council met to evaluate how our current building was meeting the various needs of ministry. Visits were made to other churches to gather data and seek information on the pros and cons of different facilities. A report of the findings will be presented to members when a complete presentation was formulated. With the growing size of the youth ministry and the need for the teens to have a place where they could claim ownership, it was agreed to convert the garage on the southeast corner of the parking lot to a youth center. With all the activities taking place, FBC members still found time for recreation by participating in the Summer Softball League, dragon boat races, and Harborfest opportunities. In the fall, it seemed like Sunday school classes were peaking in attendance. A midweek children's ministry program was started, led by Andrea and Kevin Tate. King's Friends was a new and exciting ministry. Many members of the congregation helped with whatever was needed. Many times, the Wednesday evenings got a little messy or had special visitors like clowns. 2003, an all-member meeting took place in January. With $200,000 in the building fund and many months of evaluating and planning, the building committee laid out a plan for a new building expansion to increase space for current and future ministries. It was estimated that the new addition would cost about $913,000. After much discussion, the matter was voted on and approved to move forward with the plan. In national news in February, the space shuttle, Columbia, disintegrated upon re-entry, killing all 7 astronauts. In March, U.S. troops invaded Iraq and ousts its ruler, Saddam Hussein. An Easter musical play, A.D., was put on for the church and the community. Later in the year, a Christmas musical, The Christmas Post, was presented. There were many opportunities for participation and fellowship in these productions. Kingdom Bound Children's Ministry had a busy year, with all their programming and sometimes messy teaching moments. The ministry even had puppets to teach some biblical stories and principles. In November, Pastor Jerry and the elder ministry team started working on a strategic plan to continue carrying out our vision statement, to know Him and make Him known. 2004. With the new year starting, planning continued with how FBC would carry out its mission. It was determined that FBC is committed to becoming a safe haven where we can worship God, pray, fellowship, and equip one another in order to become healthy individuals and families. With excitement, in March, construction on an addition starts. The foundation for this new addition, to be known as The Rock, Recreation, Outreach, Community Use, Kingdom Building, was poured. After many months of anticipation, the outer shell is complete and inside concrete floors are poured and cured. In June, Kim Collins replaces Loretta Avery as office manager. Loretta leaves to follow her husband Jason as he accepts the position of pastor of the Bankers Baptist Church in Hillsdale, Michigan. 2005. This would be the year that the American Baptists of Michigan launched a new endeavor, developing healthy churches, to unite and strengthen their member churches. Interior work begins with members of the congregation laying out and putting up walls for the various rooms, hallways, bathrooms, showers, and gathering spaces. Many hands were used, even from friends of the congregation. It would be a long year with a lot of sweat equity and hundreds of hours donated by volunteers. In August, Hurricane Katrina devastated the Gulf Coast areas. 1,836 people died from the storm and thousands were left homeless. Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi were hit the hardest. At FBC, a new ministry was forming, Sing, Sign, Step, which was a way to bring the gospel message through sign language, dance, and music. This group would gain several members as time moved on, and eventually they took their program outside the walls of FBC. The Point Student Ministry kept Associate Pastor Milan busy as he worked with local and regional youth leaders and the community. With walls framed in, electrical wiring and plumbing could begin to be installed, followed by miles of drywall. Because of the many hours volunteers put in, the cost of labor was kept low. Many thanks to the unofficial foreman, John Seitz. 2006. After what seemed like an eternity, FBC got an occupancy permit to use the first floor classrooms, children's worship area, and library. The kitchen area was still being worked on. Various youth group activities took place through the year, such as Super Bowl party, Recyclers, cycling group, a 30-hour famine fundraiser, summer camp programs, See You at the Pole, National Prayer Event, and rock workdays. In the August, with the loss of music director Brent Bittenbender, Dean Newell and Joe Kohler agreed to step in as temporary leaders of the worship team until a replacement could be found. At the time of this recording, Dean is still leading in a temporary status. In the fall, the children's ministry enhanced their teaching efforts with the addition of a puppet team, which included performances during the children's worship services. 2007. In April, FBC received an occupancy permit to use the second floor of the Rock. The kitchen in Freeman Hall, the gym, were still being worked on. Many thanks goes to Paul Fitton for all the hard work and time he gave managing the project. With access to the upper floor of the Rock, which was planned primarily for youth activities, what better way to inaugurate the space than to have a Battle of the Bands as the first major activity? Plans were made, and several bands, local and regional, applied for entry. Organized chaos evolved, and a great time was had. On the world scene, the iPhone was introduced. Changes in the way we communicate would forever be changed. A new ministry also starts this year, the Prayer Shawl Ministry. A small group of dedicated men and women met regularly to make shawls which were prayed over before being given to FBC members and others in the community, near and far. Their goal was that the recipient would be comforted knowing that someone was thinking about and praying for their circumstances. In the fall, in keeping with the intentional use for the Rock, the C standing for community, we opened our doors to the South Haven Area Youth Development Program, which later became known as YDC, Youth Development Corporation. Another group to take advantage of our space was a local anger management class, helping local people work through requirements of the legal system to get their life back on track. 2008. For the next 19 months, the world would go through a period of financial strife known as the Great Recession. A combination of financial institutions and the housing market were the leading causes, compounded with reduced global trade taking place. Meanwhile, at FBC, with the completion of the East Wing, FBC was granted an occupancy permit. Soon afterwards, several activities and events took place, such as a chili cook-off, a health and safety expo, and a financial seminar. A youth choir was formed, and the Michigan Singers ministered during a worship service. Student ministries hosted a senior citizen prom, and FBC hosted the American Baptist Churches of Michigan's annual meeting. In the fall, the church launched a church-wide campaign entitled 40 Days of Purpose, based on the book, The Purpose-Driven Life. In other news, the Detroit Red Wings would win their 11th Stanley Cup, and a new mass-produced electric auto would begin, the Tesla Roadster. 2009, Barack Obama would become the 44th President of the United States. In February, FBC hosted a church-wide Super Bowl fellowship party in the upstairs plaza. It was later discovered that the National Football League didn't allow such activities to take place because of copyright infringement. This party pooper finding prevented future gatherings of such an event. In April, with the continued financial Great Recession, General Motors cut 21,000 jobs and phased out the Pontiac brand. Chrysler filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Meanwhile, our FBC teens and their school friends decided to spend spring break helping others. A group went to Pearlington, Mississippi on a mission project to help with Hurricane Katrina relief efforts. In December, FBC presented another musical drama called High Cotton for the local community. It was a good year for FBC. Unfortunately, Michigan experienced the worst unemployment rate of any state, peaking at over 15%, due to the auto industry crisis and the general financial crisis.